Beautiful. Okay. Welcome all to the class. Thank you for coming. If anybody needs more chairs, they're going to bring them out. Bezrat Hashem. But don't grab. Don't grab. There'll be enough chairs for everyone. If we need, we can bring some more up from our second location. But I think we'll have enough probably for tonight. Okay. Looks like there's such an awakening for the month of Elul that we've experienced so many people coming to learn, because people are very, very inspired. So it's nice, good to hear. We should all be blessed with a super amazing new month. Okay. Okay. So, being that the month of Elul is approaching, there is a maimer in Likutei Torah, Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li. There's actually two maimarim of Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li. We learned both of them. And over here there is a Biur, an explanation on the second Ani L'Doidi. It's on page 66 in Likutei Torah, Daf Lamed Gimel Amid Daled. The maimer itself is the maimer itself is a very, very, very beautiful maimer. As mentioned, how sometimes that's really ridiculous to say that on a maimer that it's beautiful. A maimer is godly. Maimer is a lukus. The biur on the maimer, the explanation on the maimer, doesn't read as smooth as the maimer itself. But that's our lot now. If you want to complete the book of Likutei Torah and have recordings of all of Likutei Torah, which I'm trying to do, it forces us that I already said that we're going to bring up more chairs, Be'ezus Hashem, and if we need, we can bring from the other location. So you'll make sure that everybody gets seated, right? Okay. The papers are here. It's over here on my table. Oh, you need the other kind of paper. Okay. The maimer itself, these papers are here. That's what I was talking about. You thought I'm talking about the copies. No. Okay. So, I'm learning a biur, and the biurim are always more al-pi Kabbalah, and they're a little more, I tried a few times. It's not so simple to be able to catch the thread, the nakuda here. It seems a little, in my mind, it's still scattered. But we'll learn together. Maybe on the third chance, it will, maybe now that we're learning it together, it will come together. The Eibishter's Hilf. Okay, the theme, the theme of the maimer itself, that we learned a few years ago, is in this maimer, the Alter Rebbe primarily focuses on the second half of the pasuk, Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, I am to my beloved is to me. He focuses primarily on the haroeh b'shoshanim, that he grazes, or he pastures amongst the roses. He says, I am to my beloved is to me, the one who pastures amongst the roses. So the Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li, he discusses mainly in the first maimer. The second maimer, he focuses more on the haroeh b'shoshanim. if Ani Ledodi Vedodi Li is Elul, so we have to say that the Haroya B'Sheishanim is also Elul. What's the connection of the Haroya B'Sheishanim to Elul? He pastures amongst the roses. So what does it have to do with pasturing amongst the roses to Ani Ledodi Vedodi Li? So, to the month of Elul. So the Alter Rebbe explains that in the month of Elul, the Eibishter takes us into the field of roses. And he nurtures us with roses. The entire month of Elul, we're being nurtured with roses. I remember from 6 years ago that you smiled the same way when I said this. I know that. So it's interesting how I remember exactly that when we were speaking this idea, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, when we learned it, you were in seventh heaven. So I get the same reaction. So I know we're consistent. That's good. Anyways, so basically, Chodesh Elul, he says, the entire month of Elul, there is the rose petals are falling from the sky. And we're shepherd amongst the roses. What's the idea? So the Rebbe says that roses, the Zohar equates roses with the 13 attributes of mercy. Because there are 13 petals to a rose. Obviously, it's probably a certain kind of a rose that has 13 petals. You buy roses over here, you'll find much more petals than 13 petals. But there is must be a certain kind of a rose that has 13 petals. And the 13 petals represent the Yud Gimel Midos HaRachamim. And we know that in the Chodesh Elul is called Chodesh HaRachamim. It's the Chodesh of mercy. That means that the gates of mercy are open. What does it mean? It means that there is a powerful flow of the 13 attributes of mercy that are continuously flowing during the entire month of Elul. That's the meaning. Now you have already the connection. The one who grazes amongst the roses, to Ani Ledodi Vedodi Li, because in the month of Elul, in this pasuk, it's Merum is the month of Elul. And the month of Elul is a month of Haroya B'Sheishanim, and where we experience the roses. The Alter Rebbe, however, asks, don't we know that the 13 attributes of mercy are related to tshuva and to forgiveness? And really, even though in the month of Elul we do tshuva, but really forgiveness is something that we have to wait for Aseret Yemei Tshuva, mainly Yom Kippur. And we know that on Yom Kippur, it's like gushing. The 13 attributes of mercy are flowing very intensely. So the Alter Rebbe asks, we need to understand what is the content of the 13 attributes of mercy during the month of Elul, and how is that different than the 13 attributes of mercy of Yom Kippur? Are they the same thing, or is it different? You can say it's the same inyan. It's just that it starts in Chodesh Elul, and for the next 40 days, it's one consistent thing. It's 40 days, beginning Rosh Chodesh Elul until Yom Kippur. 40 days of mercy, as the mercy flows. But the Alter Rebbe says no. The inyan of these Yud Gimel Midos HaRachamim is different in Elul than in Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, it's the mercy after a person does tshuva that God should accept the tshuva. Yom Kippur, it's all about we're doing tshuva, and Hashem doesn't have to forgive us. Hashem has to be merciful through the attributes of mercy, and we're seeking out God's infinite compassion, His infinite mercy, because from measured mercy, Hashem might chas v'shalom lose His patience, because how many times? But we are trusting that the Eibishter will always forgive us, no matter what, is because we're tapping into the infinite mercy. And that's the 13 attributes of mercy. That is, Einen Chayzis Reikom. They never go unanswered. They're always, Yamincha Pshuta Lekavel Pshavim. The Eibishter's hand is stretched out to receive. Shavim, those who do tshuva. So that's Yom Kippur, 13 attributes of mercy. Elul is a different idea. It's not 13 attributes of mercy that the Eibishter should be makabel our tshuva, but it's 13 attributes of mercy which empower the neshama to do tshuva. It's a special empowerment, it's a special godly nutrients, powerful godly nutrients, God's mercy on the neshama. And these powerful petals, which contain within themselves God's mercy on the neshama, come raining down, and they go on top of us, all over us, in our hair, in our beards. If you don't have a beard, then you can't have it in your beard. But other than that, it goes all over, and primarily it sits on your heart. And as it sits on the heart, it melts the heart, enabling the person to feel and to be able to do tshuva. Where is it really coming from? It's coming from very, 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 very deep in the Ein Sof. It's coming from a place higher than Torah and mitzvahs. Because as the Alter Rebbe goes on to explain in the main Maimer, the tshuva that we do in Chodesh Elul is pivotal. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the whole period is pivotal because it needs to reach God on a much deeper place than where the Torah and mitzvahs usually flow. And the idea that he explains is that there is a certain system of godly energy that flows to the world as a result of our mitzvah observance. And that godly flow is divided primarily into two different types of energies, pnimiyim and makifim. Pnimiyim are internal energies that are oiros bekelim, lights that go in vessels. And then there are or makifim, makif lights, encompassing powers, encompassing godliness. Which one of them we draw down through Torah, and that is the oiros pnimiyim we draw down through Torah study. Because like Torah is something that you absorb, Torah is something you understand. That's why Torah is called food for your soul. It's nutrition, you take it in. Mitzvahs is something that you obey. There's a command of God, and you obey it. You surrender to the mitzvah. That means the mitzvah is bigger than you. It remains bigger than you. The godly power in the mitzvah is not drawn into your soul. Maybe a little bit is. But it remains hovering above you, and it serves as a garment. It serves as a makif. And through our Torah and mitzvahs, we draw down into the world the pnimiyim and makifim, and through that we purify all of creation until we finish the work and Mashiach comes. That's our avodah, to fix and to correct that which is not yet rectified, and we do that through the hamshacha of Torah and mitzvahs. And mitzvahs particularly have the ability to purify and rectify the world, because in order to rectify that which is very low, it requires a higher power, and mitzvahs are higher than Torah because mitzvah is the makif and Torah is the pnimi. So Torah inspires mitzvah observance, but mitzvah observance is that potent power to be able to rectify the world. And that's our job in this world. So our main job in the world is to do mitzvahs with the assistance of Torah. And what is Torah and mitzvahs? It's a channeling, it's a channeling of godliness into creation. It's a powerful channeling of God's light. Hashem's will and Hashem's wisdom fill the universe, fill all of creation as a result of our mitzvahs. All of that is good as long as what? As we are observing the mitzvahs the way we're supposed to. Once we start doing mitzvahs in a careless fashion, and we do the mitzvah but we don't do the mitzvah correctly, which comes from ignorance, which comes from the lack of two things. It can come from ignorance, and it can also come from the lack of love and fear of God, so you don't really care that much, chas v'shalom. So you're doing, or even worse than that, negligence. As a result of that, we cause the entire godly presence in creation to get messed up. And there is a deep defect, a powerful defect in the whole Torah, in the entire scheme of Torah and mitzvahs, which is this entire tremendous incredible cosmic, godly presence and development that has been developed throughout all the ages, but gets completely messed up. And it can, God forbid, lead to empowerment of the forces of the negative and so on and so forth, even to get into it and mess up, and even they become stronger. It's no good, no good. And what happens then is that the entire system almost becomes useless. There's no flow. And if there is a flow, it's very weak. So what we need to do is we need to revamp. We need to revamp both the makifim and the pnimiyim. We need to re-jumpstart. We have to flush out whatever was and bring in basically we have to draw forth a godly excitement in Torah and mitzvahs from new. It should be like a new Torah and a new mitzvah. Not the mitzvahs of last year, because the mitzvahs of last year, when they were done sloppily and negligently and not this, then God doesn't have an enjoyment in it. So the Eibishter, so we have to get a whole new start and a whole new interest and a whole new energy in Torah and mitzvahs. For that to happen, we have to get to the source of Torah and mitzvahs. We have to get to, and that is God himself. Not the emanations of God. Now, the Or Pnimi of Torah is definitely only an emanation. Even the Or Makif, which is getting a little bit more into the very being of God himself, not just an emanation, but it's still the Chitzonius, it's the external of the Eibishter's self. In order to get to the God himself, that requires and from there is where we have to stimulate a new hamshacha, a new Or, both in Torah and in mitzvahs. And that's accomplished through Hashiveni Hashem Elecha V'Noshuv. We need to do tshuva Elecha, to you, God himself. We have to reach for God's face, to the Eibishter's Pnimius. And that requires a very, very intense esoidus. That requires a very, very intense, powerful surge of the neshama, with an intense longing to God, much stronger than what its regular inspiration or energy that motivates mitzvah observance. Once there is already a light and a flow where you just have to keep the wheels turning. But when you have to generate a complete new a new will of Hashem, it requires a much deeper yesodidus from the very essence of the person's soul. In order for us to have the koyach to do that, the power to do that, God sends us a download. Hashem downloads into our neshama from that very place where we need to elevate, where we need to stimulate. And what is that? That's the 13 attributes of mercy coming down as the 13 petals of the rose. And that's the Haroya B'Sheshanim during the month of El. An empowerment of truth. It's only an empowerment. It doesn't jolt us, because now it's Pesach. Pesach is when God jolts us. This is, Hashem is not jolting us. Hashem is not picking us up, swooping us up. He's just empowering us. The idea of the king in the field. The Eibishter himself comes down to us. These are the 13 petals of the rose. As they sit on our hearts and they awaken, they soften the heart and bring us to this deep, deep, deep call that we can do tshuva. And that's the teichen of the Maimer Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li. And it's funny that I shouldn't say funny, but I'd say it's interesting that the Alter Rebbe in this Ani L'Doidi Maimer talks about Elul, and then in the end he summarizes it all, that it all concludes with Simchas Torah. In other words, it all leads to Simchas Torah. Why does it all lead to Simchas Torah? Because Simchas Torah is like this. After we've refreshed the Torah and the mitzvahs, after we've refreshed everything, and we realize that we've gotten a whole new flow of Torah and mitzvahs, and we're committed to a whole new light, then we experience Simcha Shel Mitzvah. And it's interesting, the Simcha Shel Mitzvah is the flip side, if we can say, of the tshuva that we do in Elul. What do I mean the flip side? Simcha Shel Mitzvah also touches on the very same place where the tshuva of Chodesh Elul does. In other words, we said before, Torah is Or Pnimi, internal light. Mitzvahs are makifim. But in the makif itself, it's the lower makif, the makif that's closer to us. As I said earlier, it's like coming from the Eibishter himself, but from the Eibishter, more from the Eibishter's chitzonius. Simcha Shel Mitzvah, Torah is the Eibishter's ray to the world. Or even not to the world, but it's like already contracted light. Mitzvah is the Eibishter expressing his will, but it's still chitzonius compared to tshuva, where we want God, we want you, nothing other than you, right? When a Yid gets happy when he's doing mitzvah, Simcha Shel Mitzvah, the joy that a Jew has in a mitzvah is the joy in the connection that he has to the Eibishter himself. So Simcha Shel Mitzvah also touches much higher than the mitzvah itself. The joy of the mitzvah reaches much higher than the mitzvah itself. So, but in Elul, we can't. So in a sense, if we want to rejuvenate God's flow of Torah and mitzvahs, because we need to get to a place that's the source of Torah and mitzvahs, we should be able to get to it through Simcha Shel Mitzvah. But we can't have Simcha Shel Mitzvah when our mitzvah observance is messed up. So what's the Simcha Shel Mitzvah? It's after we clean up our act, and we have real tshuva, and we've regenerated a whole new Torah and mitzvahs. It's almost like we say a new Torah, Torah Chadasha, a new Torah, a new energy flow of Torah and mitzvahs that come to the world. Now we can experience Simcha Shel Mitzvah, which is again touching on the very, very, very Haroya B'Sheshanim, on the same inyan that where those rose petals are coming from. And that's why the word Shoshana also comes from the word Sheshonim, which refers to Torah study. And that's what, because they're both connected to this, but he says he's not talking so much about Torah study, but the Simchas HaTorah, the joy of Torah. Okay, that's the Teichen and the content of the Maimer. Once we know the Teichen and the content of the Maimer, let's see if we can make heads and tails of the Biur on the Maimer. Again, this is not the Maimer that we're learning. We're going to learn the explanation on the Maimer, the nuts and bolts of the Maimer. Let's take a look. Biur al Pasuk Ani L'Doidi. This is explanation on the Pasuk Ani L'Doidi. Biur in the Maimer is all the explanation of what Chazal say Talmud Gadol. That Talmud is greater. Talmud is greater. Torah study is greater. Maisa Gadol, or Maisa is greater, or action is greater. There's a debate amongst the sages. Which one is greater? Is Torah study greater or mitzvah observance greater? V'nimnu v'gamru, and they came to the conclusion, Gadol Talmud, the Talmud is greater, shemevli de Maisa, that Torah study is greater, but even though they say Torah study is greater, why is Torah study greater? Because it brings to mitzvahs. So you see from here that really in the end, the ultimate is mitzvah, but Torah leads to mitzvahs. So now he's going to explain to us what is the quality, what is the greatness of Maisa mitzvahs. Maisa mitzvahs and Biur noiga. The act of a mitzvah, the reason why mitzvahs are so precious is because in mitzvahs we're doing a purification in noga. Noga is basically the world, is the klipa that this world is infected by. Our world is infected by klipa, by a shell that's obscuring God. It's called noga. But we know that in these shells there is tremendous potential. There's tremendous godly power and potential that is hidden and concealed and obscured. And our avoid is to do a biur, which means to push away the bad, the ra, and to expose the good. And then we rectify noga, we rectify the world, and we make the world into a garden for Hashem. That's the idea of birurei noga. Shema'uriv tevera, which at first, this noga is a mixture of good and bad. And he says, let's take anything that happens in this world. Like by eating. There is the eating of a glutton. which is just eating. It doesn't have any purpose. It's just for satisfaction of a person's animalistic desires. That's all that it is. So that's an experience that's hiding God. Because at that moment, when that person is having an interaction with the food, and that whole episode is taking place, the person, chomping down his plate, it's as if God doesn't exist at that moment in that person's consciousness. He's eating, he's too involved in his food, doesn't know of God, doesn't know of anything spiritual. That's called achilas zoilel v'soive. There's no purpose, there's no ebishter there. He could be a very religious person, but now he tells God, come on, don't bother me now, I'm eating now. Right? This is not your space. This is my space. So this idea of my space, that's Noga. That's the Ra of Noga. That's the bad of Noga. But it's possible to eat and to bring God into it. And then you actually reveal, not only is you're bringing God in, but you're actually uncovering God in the food itself. And that's when you're eating in a mitzvah way. Yes, shehi shal mitzvah, and then there's another kind of eating, which is a mitzvah to eating. Kigan achilas kachim is someone eating in the Beis HaMikdash. Same food, same gashmi, same piece of steak that could have ended up in a restaurant, that ends up in the Beis HaMikdash. And then it's eaten by the Kohen. Ekamoi Suda Shabbos, or the meals of Shabbos. It's holy eating, because it's a mitzvah to eat on Shabbos. So you see over here, and that's a mitzvah. So you see that the mitzvah of, which mitzvah? The mitzvah of eating kachim, eating karbanos, or the mitzvah of eating on Shabbos, is entering into a space that otherwise is ungodly, taking those very materials and making them godly. Mitzvahs and the mitzvahs and birurim, that's what the mitzvahs are. They're all, every mitzvah. Gave an example of eating. There's mitzvahs that we do in clothing, mitzvahs that we do with our homes, mitzvahs that we do, all kinds of mitzvahs. Mitzvahs and birurim, mitzvahs are purifications, lavarer, to purify, mashahu davar gashmi, that which is a physical thing. Liyois bebchenas bittul, that this davar gashmi, what's the content? What's the content of using something as a mitzvah? When you're using something as a mitzvah, means you're surrendering it to God's will. It's used in accordance to what Hashem wants. So liyois bebchenas bittul, so that this davar gashmi now is in a state of bittul. Okay. Now, why is that so special? And that's why mitzvahs, he's debating now which one is greater, Talmud Gadol or Maisa Gadol. And according to one opinion, mitzvahs are greater. Why are mitzvahs greater? So now he's saying the quality of mitzvahs is you're rectifying noga. Now, why is that so great? So now he explains. Ki ashvira haishta b'shem samach gimel. The shattering of the vessels. The whole idea of what? The whole idea of noga, of sparks of holiness being found in being present in the physical things in this world and in an unholy state, is because of shviras hakelim, because of the shattering of the vessels. And we know that which vessels shattered? Very, 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 very lofty vessels. The vessels of the world of Toyu, which the world of Toyu was a very, very intense godly world, which the world of Toyu is higher than the entire spiritual, the whole spiritual realms and the godly worlds that there are, that precede our world. The world of Toyu was much higher in terms of its godliness. Because the worlds of Atzilus and the like, they all related to the name of Ma. The power of the 45 of Yud Kei Vav Kei Shem Ma. That's the energy that creates, called Olam Atikun, that brings about the worlds of Atzilus. And all the worlds of Olamais of Kedusha, they're all related to Shem Ma. But the Shvira, the shattering of the vessels, is in the name 63, Shem Samach Gimel. And Samach Gimel is higher than Ma. The shattering of the vessels was in the name of 63. Like it says in Tehillim, Kuloi Sog Yachtav. So it says the word there, Sog. Kuloi Sog Yachtav. I didn't get a chance to look up the actual translation in English. But when I used to say Tehillim, it always occurred to me that in those words, kuloi sag yachtav is hinted to the idea of shviras hakelim, because you mentioned sag is samach gimel, and that's what he's saying, sag. You see from there, yachtav ne'alachu, it's talking about things coming apart. And that's the mashmoyas from reading the psukim. I didn't again. V'nase, so what happened? That's before it collapsed. V'nase ban, and then it became ban. Okay, what is he referring to? Just quickly, a Kabbalistic idea. In the Yud Kei Vav Kei, in Hashem's name, there are primarily four gematrias, if you count the Milui: Av, Sag, Ma, and Ban. Av is Ayin Beis, Shem Ayin Beis, equals 72. Comes out from the gematria of Yud Kei Vav Kei with the hidden letters. Then there is, when you fill the letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei a little differently, you get to the gematria of Samach Gimel 63. When you fill those letters in another manner, you get 45 and you get 52. These are four different manners of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. And obviously we understand that they represent four different manifestations of Hashem. So in our Maayon, we're not going to deal with the first one, Ayin Beis. We're just going to deal with the latter three, Sag, Ma, and Ban. So how does it work? Like this. Sag is the name of God that dominated in the world of Toyo, where the energies were very intense and the vessels were very narrow, and they couldn't hold the energy. Then it shattered and it broke. The effects of these shattered vessels that fell down and became disconnected from Hashem, but still containing within them these shards from this very, very holy world of Samach Gimel, they fell down into the realm of Ban. Ban is then the world. Ban is the 52 is the name of Hashem associated with a world that needs rectification. And that's Olam, he's going to say soon in a moment, Bria Yetzir and Asiya. Primarily the world of Asiya is where the darkest elements of Ban, but ultimately we know the rule that wherever is darker, the spark must be from higher. Okay. So again, what do we have over here? From Sag comes Ban. So Ban is the lowest, and Sag is the highest. In between the two is Shem Ma. Because what happened? After the Shviras HaKelim, Hashem saw the mess that happened. Now, obviously, he intended this mess to begin with. He said, now I'm going to re-emanate powers in a world that's going to help in the process of rectifying the mess that happened in the world of Ban. So what happens? He emanates what's called Olam HaTikun, which are oiros and kelim that are commensurate with each other, lights and vessels that are compatible. Now there's no more Shviras HaKelim. The creatures and beings that are deriving from this place are very, very godly conscious. The reason they're so godly conscious is because they're not impacted by the Shviras HaKelim, and those are the neshamas, the souls of all worlds, the pure neshamas. They're not impacted by Shviras HaKelim. So every neshama is in an intrinsic state of attachment to Hashem. And these are going to be the fixer men. These are going to be the ones that are the repair guys that are going to go into the world of Ban, and they're going to fish out the Nitzutze Kedusha, separate, do a Biur in this toxic, in a sense it's toxic klipa, in this space of Ban, in which needs to be elevated. These sparks are elevated, and once we reconnect these sparks back to their source, then these sparks down here, which are the physical, lower things of this world, shine with a brighter light than those who were enlightening them. Because who was enlightening them? Enlightening them were beings from the world of Ma. Now, the world of Ma is a perfectly attached world, a world perfectly attached to God, but Hashem has already severely diminished his power in the world of Ma, in the energy, in the realm of Ma. Hashem has constricted himself. The sparks that are in Ban, they're emanating from Samach Gimel, where God was allowing his energy to flow out without any constriction, infinite. So the enlightened become the enlighteners. I don't know if there's a word, enlighteners. Become the teachers. The students become the teachers. The makabel, the one who received, becomes a source of information, a source of energy. It's the idea that the nefesh habahamis can influence the nefesh elikis in a good way once you rectify it. Or the body will rise higher than the neshama. Or the woman in the days of Mashiach will be higher than the man. They're all the same idea. That Ban, after its tikkun, goes up to Samach Gimel. And that's why mitzvahs are the most powerful things. Because in mitzvahs, you're engaging the Ban and connecting it to Samach Gimel. That's what you're doing in mitzvahs. So even though now the Ban is not yet fully attached, so it's not really revealing its energies of Samach Gimel yet, of that world of Tayu, it's not yet connecting, it's not yet channeling. But when Mashiach will come, we will see the power of every mitzvah that we did. And the power and the godliness that's going to shine in a mitzvah is greater than the godliness that's shining in Torah. Torah is Ma, the power of Ma. Torah is Chachma, Koach Ma, the power of Chachma. So now Torah is higher than mitzvah. Torah inspires mitzvah observance. But once the mitzvah is done, guides you how to do the mitzvah. Just like you need a neshama to fix the body. You need Torah to enable the mitzvah to happen and be done correctly. But when Mashiach comes, the mitzvah, Torah mitzvahs will flip over and mitzvah is higher than Torah. So now let's take a look. Ki ashvira, because the shvira b'shem samach gimel kulei sog yachtos. V'nasa ban, and it became ban. Shanafel b'shvira, that fell in shvira sakelim. And what happened as a result of it falling in the shvira? Liyos yesh v'davar. The klipa does. The fall makes it become separated from God. When it becomes separated from Hashem, it begins to think of itself as something. Becomes a yesh, becomes a somebody. Achanasa olam agashmi. Till it becomes such a metzias, it becomes so full of itself, till you can actually touch it. And it actually, that's what physicality is. What's physicality? Physicality is concepts that take themselves so seriously, they fluff up so seriously, that you can actually that they have a mamashis. All it is an idea, but it's so full of itself, it's so disconnected to the power behind the idea. These ideas become so like self-aware that they are such a good idea that they become thick and thick and thick till they become something you can touch, and you can because of its. So all it is a brute. Is a brute being of I. That's all that it is. And that's what makes it physical. Until it becomes not stam physical. It becomes hard like a rock. Gashmias. The ultimate I. The ultimate yesh. The ultimate mitzias. And our job is to drill it with bittul. V'abiru b'shema. And the biur that happens now is in the name of Ma. B'chenaz bittul, which is the bittul. We bring bittul by doing what? As we said before. We constantly engage. You have food, which is one of those experiences which is the idea of aniva afsiyoid, I'm a yesh, I'm a somebody, and therefore my dinner is the most important thing in the world, is now, right? So when a person can use food and for a godly purpose, can bring godly consciousness into their eating, to eat because Hashem wants them to eat so that He can serve them, that changes the nature of the food. Now he says, Biyah hu koidem atikon. Now the world's bri yitzir and asiya hasn't been rectified yet. Meaning this is the repair zone. The repair zone where we need to do repairs is in bria yitzir and asiya. Mashenke atzilus isn't the case in the world of Atzilus. Atzilus is after the Tikkun. It was already fixed into a state of bittul. The bittul of Atzilus is so strong that he and all the powers of Atzilus are totally unified. So they're one with him. Kenoida me'inyan tefillah, as it is known from the idea of tefillah. Sha'ad baruch sha'amaru olam asiyah, which we know that until baruch sha'amar is olam asiyah. And after baruch sha'amar, we enter into the world of Yetzirah. And after Yishtabach by Baruch Hu, we enter into the world of, and what are we doing? Every day we go through these three worlds. What are we doing? We're doing birurim. We're doing repairs. Now it's amazing, I never thought of it this way. But if you think about this, in the morning when you're davening, you're putting on your repairman suit. You're the plumber, and you're going to repair, do a tikkun in the world. Olam Asiyah needs a tikkun. You're a being from outside the system, as he's going to say in a moment. You're from Olam Atzilus. You don't need repair. But you're coming to do a repair. And the three phases of davening, Bria, Yetzirah, Tul Baruch Sha'amar, Tul Shemona Esrei. And it seems like even though he's not explaining it over here, even though Shemona Esrei corresponds to Atzilus, but in Shemona Esrei you're not repairing anymore. No, Shemona Esrei is not a place of repair because the place you are in Shemona Esrei doesn't need repair. The repair, the rectification that is being done on the three levels, Bria, starting with Asiyah, then in Olam HaYetzirah, and then, in a sense, for a man at least, when he's putting on his talis and his tefillin, he's basically putting on his repairman suit. You know, and now he's going to do repairs. Because just like we said before, mitzvahs are birurim, tefillah is also birur. Tefillah gam came birur, because tefillah is also a rectification. One is going to argue in order to do a rectification in the physical world, it requires a physical action of holiness. So the Rebbe says, well, because it's funny, not in this mimer, but in the mimer of Hanachas, the other Hanacha of this, in Hanachas Harap. There's a sefer Hanachas Harap of the Alter Rebbe's Memorim. Over there, he emphasizes what the Alter Rebbe means over here. The question is, birurim can only be done through an asiyah, through an act. Because you have to engage the physical in a birur. And in prayer, what's your act? So similar to what he speaks about this in Tanya too. The reason why in prayer there's such a focus on saying the words. It's not good. You don't fulfill your prayers in meditation. Even though you have to meditate during davening. But you don't fulfill your obligation unless you verbalize it with your lips. You have to say it. Because through speaking the words, you're doing a physical action. Moving your jaws is a physical action. Because moving the lips is a maisa. And biyah need tikkun. It's interesting, what I was struggling over here is, what is he proving from tefillah? It seems like he wants to prove that what? At Atzilus, you don't have to be mesakin. But Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, you do have to be mesakin. Kenoida me'inyan tefillah, like you know in davening. Because from Tul Baruch Sha'amar is in Asiyah, after Baruch Sha'amar is in Yetzirah, and after that is in Bria. Fine, but isn't after that in Atzilus? So how is he proving from davening that the Atzilus is not a makom where you do birurim? And where do you see that in davening? Obviously, that's my conclusion that I'm saying, that you have to say that in Shemona Esrei. But that l'chura, according to that, Shemona Esrei you shouldn't have to say with your mouth. Are you saying it quietly, but you still kima svasav, you still have to move your lips. You can't do l'chura. The proof would be that if you get to Shemona Esrei and you can just be totally silent without any movement of your body and no movement of your lips, then you say, because then you're in Atzilus, and Atzilus is nothing to repair. Everything is in a state of. But he doesn't say that, so I'm not exactly sure what he brings over here. Okay. And it's funny that in the other version of the Maimer, this line is set earlier. It's not as a continuation of this that Atzilus doesn't need a tikkun. Here. Yeah. And this is consistent with what we learn in Tanya. that the neshama itself in Perek Lamed Zayin and Tanya, that the neshama doesn't need a tikkun. Neshama doesn't need tikkun. That's what it means. People who always speak, oh, my neshama came down to this world, what's my tikkun? So it's not a bad question, but it needs to be understood correctly. Some people think that you have a damaged soul. We're born with damaged goods, and we need to repair it, God forbid. The body, yeah, not the neshama. The animal soul, yeah, it's damaged goods. It needs repair. Neshama doesn't need repair. The neshama is pure. Neshama shenasata b'tahirahi, you gave it to me pure. When you say, what's the tikkun of my neshama, what you should be meaning is what kind of repair does my neshama have to do in the world? Not the neshama needs a repair. What kind of repair do I have to do in the world? Why? But now he's explaining why. Something he doesn't say in Tanya. Because the neshama comes from what's the tikkun we need to do? The tikkun is we need to take out from shviras hakelim. What does shviras hakelim accomplish? Shviras hakelim accomplished a distortion. What's a distortion? A distortion of sense of self. That there is existence other than God. That's the distortion. And that's what shviras hakelim made. So to repair it means to fix it, that it should become bottled to Hashem. Atzilus is already in a state that it knows that Hashem is its entire existence. It doesn't have a self other than God. The neshama is also a resident of Atzilus. The neshama doesn't have a self other than God. Ki ha-neshamu ma'olam Atzilus. Shu achar hatikun. That's already after the rectification, meaning it's already naturally a bottle to Hashem. You're going to say, well, not all neshamas are from Atzilus. That's male neshamas of big tzaddikim, the neshamas of Atzilus. But we know there are lower neshamas. So maybe our neshamas do need a tikkun because they're neshamas of Bria, Tzir, and Asiya. And Bria, Tzir, and Asiya need a tikkun. V'afil neshama d'biyah, and even a neshama of Bria, Tzir, Atzilus, Asiya, the Bria, Tzir, Asiya, we have to appreciate that it doesn't mean, even a lower neshama of Bria, Tzir, and Asiya doesn't mean actually Bria, Tzir, Asiya. Aina Atzilus d'biyah. Neshamas are always from Atzilus. Even the neshamas that are called lower souls and they're from Bria or from Yetzir and Asiya, they're from the Atzilus of Asiya or from the Atzilus of Yetzir. Which means they're from the godly of that world. When we say they're lower, it means that they're relating more to the physical. They relate more to the Gashmiistic world. But in essence, the neshama is a Haina Atzilus d'biyah. Why? Kilamet kelim da Atzilus mislapshem b'biyah. How do we know that there's such a thing called Atzilus of Biyah? And he explains, because we learned that there are 30 vessels of Atzilus that descend and become the neshama of the three lower worlds, Bria, Yetzir, and Asiya. The inside of those 30 vessels, it's really 10 vessels. It's the 10 vessels of Malchus that go down to become the neshama of Bria, Yetzir, and Asiya. The inside of the vessels, the inner pneumius of it, the ones closest to the light, of the neshamas of the kelim of Atzilus. These are kelim of Atzilus, which means they're perfectly one with God. The inside of those vessels, that are the most intense part of those vessels, they become the neshama of Olam Abriya. The middle section of those kelim, whatever that means, becomes the neshama of Olam HaYetzira. And the more external element of those vessels become the energy of the Eser Spherois of Asiya, of the world of Asiya. And therefore they say, Maisa Gadol. And therefore the sages say that Maisa is greater, that action is the greatest thing. Why? Ki achar ha-Biur, because after we're done with the rectification, Shem Ban Gadol Mishem Ma. The name of 52, which is where the physical is. These three lower worlds are all derived from that shattered vessels of 52. Once you correct it, we connect the sparks back to Samach Gimel, to that primordial world of Toyu, where the lights were much more intense than in the world of Ma, than in the world of Tikkun. So that's why you say Shem Ban Gadol will be greater Mishema. That's why we explain many places that the greatest godly revelations will be in the physical world, much higher than even in the ruchniistic worlds above. Eishes Chayil Ateres Baila, the woman of valor, she's the crown of her husband. Ach, Bibchinas Acheres. That's on one end. That's why mitzvahs are so great. Ach Bibchinas Acheres, in another Bechina, Talmud Gadol. There is another perspective where Talmud is greater. Why? Because Shehu B'chinas Ma HaMevarer. Mitzvah is what? You're involved in a physical action. The physical action is based on the Eibishter's Ratzon. But it's your action. It's your action that you are doing that's being in accordance to the Eibishter's Ratzon. So, where are you be'etzem? You're in a physical realm dealing with physicality. That's where you are. It's just that when you correct the world of Ban and you do this bitter, one day godly energy will flow through here higher than ever. But when you're learning Torah, at that moment you're channeling godliness. It's actually the power of the 45. When you're learning Torah, even though we said before, our neshamas are in a state are in bittul of the world of Atzilus. That's your neshama. How can your consciousness actually be the consciousness of Atzilus? Your neshama, okay. So, one level, through deep meditative prayer, when you get to Shemoneh Esrei, you can be in that zone. Another way is when you're learning Torah. Because when you're learning Torah, you just emptied your mind of yourself and you're allowed God's mind to enter your mind. So now you're thinking Hashem's thoughts. And these are thoughts of, this is godliness, this is the flow of a lakus through Olam Atzilus. Be'ikr Chachma, which is the dominant power of Olam Atzilus. B'chinas Ma HaMevarer, this is the power of 45, and does the Biur. Ki HaTalmud. What does the learning do? Mitzvah. So this is the power that's doing the Biur. Mitzvahs, you're dealing with the materials that are being nizbarer. In Torah, you're involved with the force that's doing the Biur itself. Ki Talmud u'levar mitzvah. The Talmud comes to explain how to do a mitzvah. Eich tiyah sukkah. How to do a sukkah. The esrog, and how should an esrog be kosher. B'chachma is biridu. With chachma is where the birudim happen. So I do want to say that this little passage that we just read can probably use a nice hour or so of explanation of what this all, how to understand this. What does it mean? This is the Mevarer, Talmud Levar Mitzvah. But in this mimer over here, he's being very bekitzer. Just could you shut this out? So now, this is one idea in which he explained how how mitzvah is greater, and in another sense, Talmud is greater. So after Mashiach comes, Taka, when the godliness of the source of the Gashmias will be revealed, then mitzvahs will be greater. But right now, where are you in a godlier state? When you're learning Torah. Because now you're connecting to the power of Ma, that's the Mevarer. But now he adds it, seemingly another inyan, but I'm sure the two inyanim, when I was learning it, I didn't chap exactly how the two are really one, but I'm sure they are. Also by Derech HaKabbalah, we find this idea that mitzvahs are greater than Torah from another perspective. In a Maaseh Gadol, Maaseh is greater, Shuma B'chinas Keser. The mitzvahs we know, we learned many times, 613 mitzvahs plus 7 rabbinic commandments equals 620, Gematria Keser. Mitzvahs come from Keser and Torah comes from Chachma. And the reason explained many times is because Keser is Ratzain and mitzvahs are Hashem's Ratzain. B'chinas Keser, Maloshin Koiteres, Shu B'chinas Ratzain, this is a Ratzain Shalamaylam and a Chachma that's higher than a Chachma. Shehi HaTorah, which is the Torah. V'hi b'chinas makif, and mitzvahs, and that light, a keser is makif. A keser sits above the head. So it represents levels of Hashem that are so vast and so great that they're encompassing, they're above anything that any keli can absorb. And Chachma is already a reduced light, which you can internalize. The very idea that it's Chachma, you can understand it. It can be brought in. But notwithstanding, I'm sorry, but in another way, Chachma is greater. Why? Even though Keser is higher than Chachma, infinitely higher than Chachma, but there is a Maila, there is a quality in a flow in connecting to Chachma and channeling Chachma and then channeling Keser light. Because when you're channeling from Chachma, you're taking the Pnimius of it. And when you're channeling from Keser, you're only taking the Chitzanius of it, the external. And there is a quality in Pnimius. From Keser comes only the Chitzanius Kaneda. But from Chachma, he be Pnimiyusa, you're taking from the Pnimius of Chachma. The Biur Pasuk 10 Arena, as explained in that mind. Okay, so he gives two reasons. One has to do with it's interesting. I would say like this. One has to do with the effects of Torah and mitzvahs, and one has to do with Torah and mitzvahs itself. In the first Biur, he was talking about the effects of it. Mitzvah impacts Biur. And since mitzvah impacts Biur on nitzutzis, and these nitzutzis really are from Olam HaToyu, so mitzad that mitzvah is greater. Torah does what? Has a mila, because Torah is the mavarer itself. It's the power of the power that does the Biur. But again, we're talking about its influence on the world. Then he's talking in the madrega of Torah and mitzvahs be'etzem b'shorsha, as they are in godliness, not in their impact on the world. So mitzvahs are keser, and Torah is chacham. And from some perspective, keser is greater. Why? Because it's makiv. From another perspective, chacham is greater because it's pnimius, and you're getting the pnimius of the pnimius from chachma, and from keser you're only getting the chitzayis. So in a sense, you can say that the two explanations. Again, he just gave us two explanations of the differences between Torah and mitzvahs and why one is greater than the other. You can say one of them is dealing with our mission and our job in the world, and the other one is dealing with our personal godliness. When a Yid is, let's say, learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, he's not caring about rectifying the world. He's thinking about what is he drawing into his own nisham. But these are two in Yah. And afterwards, on top of page Lamed Dalet, and after that, Nimnu v'gamru, they came to the conclusion, Gadol Talmud, Shemev l'dei Maisa, that really Talmud is greater because it brings to Maisa. She'im mayois sha'achachmu or pnimi, even though Chachma is an or pnimi. Va'keser u'lamayla ma'achachma, and Keser is higher than Chachma. Im kol zeh, nevertheless, harei yesavus ha'maisa, shetiyena ha'mitzvus b'pchinas Keser u'makif, hu al yedei ha'Torah. What creates and fashions the entire mitzvah is only Torah. Meaning to say like this. He's saying, true, mitzvahs, when you're doing a mitzvah, you're triggering the light of Keser. But in order to create that code, to activate the code, you need Torah. Torah activates the code. So, for instance, let me put it this way. There's certain things in technology or anything. You push a certain code, you push these buttons. Yet here's my very good marshal. You can't go out before my marshal. You can't go out before my marshal. This is very important, marshal. I'm making it up right now. So if you have a certain code, they have to push these buttons, and when you push these buttons, it'll trigger a very, very, very important impact, in something. Okay, it will turn on all the lights in the house. You have homes, everything is smart. So you push this code and all the light, the sprinklers go on, and then you push the code and then, you say, wow, it's such a powerful code. It's these codes, and you say, wow, Taka, that's great. But there is the what are they called? The technician who comes. You can buy all the hardware and put in the thing and push the buttons from today, tomorrow. No sprinkler is going on, because you need to have the right wiring, and you need to have the know-how, whatever it is, that activates this thing, that these physical actions that you're doing over here is going to set the sprinkler working. And therefore, it's the same thing over here. The acts of the mitzvahs that you're doing are physical buttons that you're pushing in a physical world. It's infinitely removed from Kesser, from the Gili of Kesser. So you need to have the Torah, which is this technician who comes and codifies exactly the mitzvahs, tells you all the halachas, tells you exactly how to do it, and when you do it, but it doesn't only mean that Torah gives you the information. The Torah actually serves as the connector, just like the technician will actually create that connection between here and there. Torah mediates that connection. So that's why the Chazal say, Gadol Talmud Shemevi L'Dema. Now here's the thing. The Talmud itself, the technician himself, as great as the technician he is, with all of his know-how and everything, if he's not pushing the buttons, the sprinklers isn't working. That means that the technician himself, you can say, if the technician can give you the buttons, that if you push the buttons, the sprinkler goes on and the lights go on and whatever goes on. So let the technician himself, without pushing the button, just stand there and make the sprinkler go on. He can't. It's dafke connected to these physical, but for whatever reason, it requires this physical act, because only this physical thing can trigger that reaction. For whatever reason, that's the laws of physics, or the laws of whatever technology. Whatever it is. So you need the physical act. So the Torah itself is not as powerful as the mitzvah. It's not as powerful as those giluyim of Kesser. But Torah is the brains that enable the whole system to work. As he says over here. The coming about of the action, that the mitzvahs should be connected into this keser and makif, is through the Torah. This is the one that makes that connection of Oirin Sof Baruch Hu libchinas hamaysa. The rabbis in the Talmud, in the Shulchan Aruch, they actually were the ones they were the channels of the Torah, channel that make these connections between Keser and the physical world. That's why you have all the Tanoim and Amarayim, Ramei like this one say, these are all the wirings. They literally give you the wirings through which the system comes, in which the Oirin Sof should be Nimshach. Shetiyena Maisa HaMitzvahs b'Bchinas Keser. That these actions should be potent. That these actions shouldn't be dead act. Just like, give an example. Just like when a guy does a mitzvah. It doesn't have any impact. Because he's missing that. Let's say, I'll give you better. Let's say it's not buttons that you push, but it's fingerprints. So you put them down, and when it notices your finger, you put down your finger on it, and it reacts. So the non-Jew doesn't have that code, so it's not going to happen by him. But nothing happens, even though he can do the same. He can shake the lulav from today till tomorrow. He's not drawing down all the yechudim and all the unifications that are happening. He could put on tefillin, it's not active. It's only active when a yid does it. This is the idea. Without Torah, everything is deactivated. So the Torah has to activate the entire process. And with this we'll understand Hashnei Makrois. Two psukim. Shanirim l'chayra kaseisrim that seem to contradict each other. Kasav echad oimer, one pasuk says, Esa shamayim v'esa oretz ani molei. Heaven and earth I fill. I myself fill, God says. The mashma ani mamish mahusei v'atzmusai, which is referring to the Eibishter himself. Ka'adam sho'omer el atzmai ani, like a person says in himself, ani, I. There's another passage that says, Maloi kol ha'aretz kivoidai. The whole world is filled with the Eibishter's glory. The Targumai and the Targum says, Ziv Yikare, only a ray. Ziv Yikare, it's a ray. So which one is it? Is the world filled with the Eibishter's ray, or is the world filled with the Eibishter himself? So here he which in many Memorim he's explaining, is it the Soiviv Kalalman or is it the Mamala Kalalman? Mamala Kalalman is only a ray of God, and the Soiviv Kalalman is the Eibishter himself. It's godliness that's not measured, it's not. And the answer is like this. Here he's saying how this is impacted through our observance. Ani mole, what makes the Eibishter be mole? Ani mamish in himself. Because mitzvahs is drawing, as we said, down from Keser. See, after Keser, the entire Seder Ishtalshalus, from Chachma and down, is not Eibishter. It's not containing. It's not. Eibishter is everywhere, but even there. But it's not channeling or capturing. Is a good word. It's not capturing Eibishter, the Or Ein Sof. It's only capturing Orei from Chachma and onward. From Keser and up, capture. The Or Ein Sof is captured because it's not captured, because it's not limited. So, but in mitzvahs, you're capturing the Eibishter himself because you're drawing on Keser. Which is Soiviv Kalam, and Keser or Makiv, it's Keser and Makiv. And therefore, since it's taka the Soiviv Kalam, Shemayim va'aretz shavim legabe b'chinazu, the Shemayim and the Aretz, heaven and earth are equal to this bechina. And that's why we find that in many ways mitzvahs are all uniform, in the sense that, and there's a certain uniform in mitzvah, is that every Jew does the mitzvah the same. There's no chilukim be'etzem and kiyam mitzvahs. Of course, there's something machlokes in and how you should do it, but the etzem asiyas mitzvah, every Jew is the same. In Limud HaTorah, we say every Yid is different in his understanding. Every Yid learns Parshas Re'eh and appreciates it differently. Understands it differently, learns it differently, sees it differently. Because in Or Pnimi, there's difference. In Or Makif, everything is the same. In a sense, all mitzvahs are equal. That's why when you do a mitzvah, there's one same kavanah you have by every mitzvah. And that is, I'm now a servant of the Eibishter. And that's why we also say mitzvah, oisik b'mitzvah, patam and mitzvah. Because every mitzvah has there's a certain singularity, because we're dealing with a Shamayim va'aretz b'shava, everything is equal. But the other pasuk that says Maloi kol ha'aretz kivoidoi, hainu b'chinas haTorah, the Torah is called kavod. Chachma d'oraisa mechachma nafkis. Torah comes, and that's already a ray of the Eibishter, and that's in each world differently, in every place there. Now, we've now established that through Torah and mitzvahs, we draw down the makifim and the oires pnimiyim. He discussed which one is greater. Fine. Now, in makifim itself, in the or makif, which should be mitzvahs, he's explaining that mitzvahs is the lower side of the makif, and then there is a higher makif in makif, which is not, beyond mitzvahs, a place that we only reach through tshuva and not through mitzvah observance. Yesh beis b'chinas makifim. There's two levels of makif. Makif hachoizer, a returning makif. Shu makif prati, which is called an individual makif. Makif hayashar, and then there is a direct makif. Shuhu makif klali, which is a general makif. Shu makif meroisha ve'ad raglei, which is makif meroisha ve'ad raglei. Like we see in this idea of makifim, we find even in human beings, because we're physically, in our physical lives, because we're all reflecting godliness. So the Or Pnimi is food, the Or Makif is clothing, and the Or Makif L'Makif is our homes. A home, person needs three things to live: food, and then you need clothing, and you need shelter. And the difference is that even though the clothing is makifim, it takes you around, yet every person has his own makif. And and not everybody's on one size. Everybody's their own size. So you see the makifim are individualized, the fee each person. More than that, within the person himself, the pants is different than the shirt. And each limb of the body, he wears a hat, has one kind of makif, the shirt is a different makif. Each person, each part of the body has its own makif. The home, everybody comes in, big people, tall people, short people, every size, everybody comes into the home, everybody's surrounded by the home equally. It all is encompassing everybody equally. That's the difference. So just like it is physically that way, it's all a reflection and a mashal for the godly realms. There's a makif that's only a makif because because this particular keli couldn't handle it. Because this particular keli, this particular vessel could not handle it. It's too intense for the keli, so it goes. It goes. You see, remember what he called it? He called it makiv hachoizer. Why is it called makiv hachoizer? It's an energy that's initially intending to be taken into a vessel, into a keli, but the keli couldn't handle it, so it settles down as a makif above it. And then there is a level of makif that's l'chatchila not meant to be absorbed in a keli. Now, in Chassidus, there are some really good mishalim for this Indian. The difference between these two makifim in teacher-student communication and the like, but I don't remember what it says, so I'm not going to share that with you right now because I can't share with you something that I don't remember. The makif hachoizer, which is makif hachoizer is the lower makif, because it means it's intended to. It's only makif because it's makif relative to the keli. The keli couldn't handle it, that's why it's makif. So, inyan ha-mitzvah, so that's the inyan of mitzvahs. Shehu ha'oir ha-nimshach u'mispashet bekeli. It's a light that is drawn down and expands in a keli. It's because the keli can't handle, is not able to contain and withstand the intense light. That's why it goes back out. V'nasa or makif ala keli. It becomes an or makif on the keli. V'hainu inyan sarois. It says in many places that the halachis of Torah are Hashem's here. And what are the halachis? Halachis is not Torah. The halachis is the mitzvahs of Torah. It's as Torah is giving you not the shakla v'tar, not the it's just the halacha. It's what's the final ratzon elyon of the mitzvah, the details of the mitzvah. And they are what? They're God's here. What does that mean? Here is above the head. So it says in many places in Chassidus that here is moisrei moichen. What does moisrei moichen mean? It's like the residue of the brain. There's so much energy in a brain, and some of that energy seeps out as the energy through the pores come out. That energy needs to go somewhere. So it goes into the hair. And the hairs contain like these little, like geysers of brain. Isn't that cool? Mushka, you can go like that. It's like these shooting out from the ground, like geysers of brain juice. Brain energy needs to go somewhere. So they go where? They go into the hair. The hair contains these, it's the follicles or these channels. According to that, if we're saying they're moisrei moichen, what it would mean is that it's much less than the brain. The brain is the pneumius, like most of the oil goes into the keli, and then there's a little bit that spreads out and goes out of the keli. But really, over here when we're using the term moisrei, it means, like it explains in different memorim, it's shirayim, where the shirayim is much greater than what goes into the keli. So it's like this. There is the moichen, God's moichen, chachma bin adas, the brains, in which the oil comes in, but only a little bit of the oil can go into the keli. Most of the oil tries to go into the keli, but it bounces out of the keli. And that becomes the hair. So really, what are we talking about when we're talking about here? We're talking about the crown, the level of keser. It's crown, that's why it's above the head. But it's not essentially the real inyan of makif. Because it's moisrei moichin. It's what didn't go into the moyach and comes out. But the only differentiation I'm making is that it's not like we see here as less than the brain. Here we're dealing with inyanim that are, it's not containable in it. Now where do we, and he says that's where mitzvahs are. Where do we see this idea? Because mitzvahs are called levushim, garments. And by the Eibishter's here it says, levushe kitelek chiver, his garment is like white snow. V'sar roisha, it's a pasuk in Daniel, and the hair of his head, ka'omer naki, is like clean wool. Garments are made out of wool. Woolen garments. So the mitzvahs are made out of the woolen garments of God's hair, of the omer naki of the Eibishter's hair. So mitzvahs are this godliness that's higher than the brain, higher than the mind, even of the divine mind. That's how powerful this rotzin is. But still, it's moisrei moichin. It's connected to the head. It's the hair attached to the head. Let's read over here. Again, this is the idea of here. This is the moisrim, the leftover of the moyach. And the sarois, these are the levushim. Shehen ha-mitzvahs, which are the mitzvahs. Ki ha-mitzvahs and levushim kenoida. Now, I made my own connection over here to this idea. He says, Cyrus are levushim. Where do you see a connection of Cyrus levushim? L'chura, to the idea, because it says that the Eibishter's hair is ka'amer naki, is like clean wool, which wool is the material in which we make the begadim from. Avala makif haklali, but the higher makif, the godliness that's not even attempting to go into a keli. It's not even trying to get into any vessel, because it's lechatchila, infinitely beyond any containers. Hu makif, that's the makif, shalagoydel oiroi, because it's so great, eino yachol likonis klal bekeli, it can't go to a keli. It's interesting. But even on the first makif, we still call that Eibishter himself. As long as it's not in brain. What goes into the moichen, that's already called ziv yakare. That's a ziv. On the makif of mitzvahs, he said that's called ani molet, the Eibishter himself, because it's not constricted by kelim. But still, the fact that it's attempting to go into a keli, it's the chitzonius of the Eibishter, not the pnimius. Avol hamakif hakloli or hamakif shalagadol oire ena yachol lekanis klal bekeli, can't go into a keli at all. Oh, and how do we touch that makif? How do we ever get in touch with what's beyond the Eibishter's here, but Eibishter himself? Well, in Torah, you're getting connected to God's brains. In mitzvahs, you're getting connected to God's hair, and you're making garments out of the wool of the hair, which means godliness that's infinitely higher. And how do you touch what is even higher than the hair? The Ein Sof Mamish. That's in the joy that you have when you're doing the mitzvah. In the mitzvah itself, you're still in the levushim. But to get to the Eibishter himself, mamish as he is in simcha shel mitzvah. Because what's the joy of the mitzvah? The joy of the mitzvah is the explosive feeling, God, I'm in a relationship with you. Vehu inyan simcha shel mitzvah, that's the joy of the mitzvah. Shahas simcha hu b'chinas makif. Because joy is, simcha is makif, shehu ba'ashva echad meroishe v'ad ragloi, which encompasses it from head to leg. Like we see, where do we see that? When you're really, really in a state of explosive joy, you dance. Dancing is something that equalizes head and foot. When people are dancing, their entire body is in one state of energy. There's no difference between the energy and the head. The feet do all the hard work, but it's like the head, everything is movement, everything is moving. Talking about spontaneous, real dancing. The entire being, because it's an energy that is Because think about it. What's released in the person is that you are suddenly fully there. See, generally when we're operating, we're not conscious of the very self. Our mind operates, our emotions operate. We're operating through a big filter. The filter, the eye, is kind of suppressed, is outside of it. What's there is the koiches hanefesh, the illuminations of the soul. When a person is happy, it means that you yourself now suddenly feel alive. You yourself come out, are flowing into your consciousness. And when you yourself flow, that's you is from head to toe. And that's why the energy of joy is like, wow. And as a Jew experiences that simcha shel mitzvah, he's grabbing God's very self as well. Because we're all aligned. So generally we're working with everything is in one state. It's not in a state of pratim. According to one, in levushim, it's mislabish in every bechina according to what it is. The makif haklali is all across. Kaniskaliel, as we said earlier. That could be why by a wedding we dance. It's the stages. It's the pnimi, the makifim, and this is the dancing is the entire person, the entire. Therefore, it says, today we do them. Oh, this is the way it's supposed to be when a Yid is the way he should be. And that's our work in this world, to activate these three things. Torah, internalizing energy. Mitzvahs, garments. And simcha shel mitzvah, God himself. But all of that can only be done in this world. Today's days to do them. Here's the amazing thing. Only in this world do we have access to the two levels of makif, the mitzvah and the simcha shel mitzvah makif. We only have access to that in this world. Once we leave this world and we go into worlds full of light, full of all giluyim, it's only it's only the little rays of God of which is coming through Hashem's brain, through Torah. That's what they're experiencing. Oh, great illumination, but there's no access to the makif, to the here. There's no access to what's beyond the here. We're talking about levels infinitely higher. No access. The reason is because in those worlds, whatever you're accessing, you're actually feeling. Those are worlds of light. Those are worlds of brightness. So levels like that can't be revealed, because if they would be revealed, there wouldn't be a world. It's not possible that should be revealed and there should be a world. So in those higher worlds, it's not shaykh for this. The only thing you can have are the rays. The quality of this world is the numbness that this world has, the darkness. Since it's so dark and everything is concealed, you can be pushing and connecting and attaching yourself and accessing like unbelievable. But since it's behelim, it's something that we can connect to. So we're doing like crazy things, crazily awesome things in this world, but I have no clue what we're doing, and that's why it can happen. Similar to what the Alter Rebbe explains, why the Malachim can't have the Gilui Shechina. Because if they would have Gilui Shechina, they wouldn't be able to handle it. Because they're living a world that they couldn't handle a mitzvah. They would pass out. But we, because of the coarseness of it, which is concealed. And through the act of mitzvahs, we're actually drawing down the makif. In the world, everything is revealed, and therefore it has to be in a keli. You have to be able to experience. There, everything takes tremendous amount of time. You have to go from level to level. And first, to even start experiencing godliness, a person needs to be purged in purgatory, Gehenna, to get cleansed, and slowly start being able to experience godly revelation. And everything moves in a very... You can't jump. In this world, a person can be a Rasha, and 2 minutes later, he can be involved in the greatest godliness. Unbelievable. And this is the tachlis. I just was reading from the Rebbe, a very beautiful thing. The Rebbe was saying that a person sometimes thinks like, how can I go to a Jew and put him on tefillin, and how can I go to a Jew and do, like, he's not ready for such holy things. He's not ready for such holy things. Like, look what he's done. No fear, no shaykhs to mitzvahs, to anything. And like, just go ahead and blast them with such kedusha, with such holiness. I mean, it's ridiculous. So the Rebbe says, well, every Jew should think about the idea that every night you go to sleep, and when you're asleep, you're not shaykh to any mitzvah while you're sleeping. You're not shaykh. Your body is a clump of, and yet you have no problem waking up and going to do a mitzvah. Not a problem. Behold it. It's not. He says, you're so disconnected from any shaykhs of any Yiddishkeit or anything. You're sleeping like a dead log. And then you wake up, okay, and you're already doing a mitzvah. Which is beautiful. But you see, the Rebbe says that you could transition from being in a state totally un-mitzvah related to a mitzvah. That's the power of this world. You can make, and therefore, it says, why should that person be any different than you? That I was just helping us find it within ourselves. Even at tzaddik, even someone never, we know ourselves that we do averis, we do things we shouldn't be doing, so we see we transition. But even someone who's always perfect shouldn't think that, how can I do it with that person who's not? Because just the mere fact that you're sleeping, the Rebbe says, the state of sleep is a complete disconnect from refinement and even though he says when you're sleeping, your neshama can be in a high place, but benegeya to your guf, you're not in a refined state, and yet you can do a mitzvah. That's the power of this world. The power of this world, we can go from Z to 8, from 8 to Z in a split second, because this is the world where we have access to Seiviv Kalalman, and there is no limitations at all. And that's why the neshama comes down to this world. It has a yerida. It comes from the worlds of light, which are only capturing the light of God, the rays of God. It comes down to a world of darkness, and where Hashem Himself becomes available. And the neshama comes down over here to do a biur, levarer, to do a biur, lios hakol b'pchinas bittul, to make the entire world bittul. For that, thousands of neshamas, millions of souls come down through all of time and space, through all the periods of time and all areas of the world and all situations, to bring bittul into these situations. And by doing what? Through Torah mitzvahs. Bamshachas pnimius, by drawing down internal energies, umakifim, and encompassing lights. And all the years of our lives are 70 years. We're not given to the person. Only for this person. The neshama doesn't need a tikkun onto itself. And it doesn't even need this hamshacha. Doesn't have to daven. A neshama doesn't have to daven. It doesn't have for itself. Why? Because tzadikim, which really all neshamas are tzadikim before they come down into the body. So neshamas are, it says about tzadikim, how are they in front of God? Kener b'fnei avuka. They're like a candle in front of a big blaze. That means they're in a state of total bittul. You take a small candle, put it next to a blaze, the candle gets sucked up in the big blaze. That's how tzadikim are. Neshamas, they're completely nullified to Hashem. Shakola me'elav, it becomes bottle on its own. Ubra karadavia, and a child is the feet of the father. Hashem is the father, we're the child, we're his feet, we're just him. The main descent to the neshama, it's in order to convert nefesh hasichlius, shebenefesh habahamis, The intellectual soul, that's in the animal soul. That means to purify, first of all, to take our human mind and fill it with godly knowledge. It's interesting, Lashon, Nefesh HaSichlis, Shebe Nefesh HaBahamas, which in Chassidus explained, it's the higher part of the Nefesh HaBahamas. Through the Amshach of Torah and Mitzvahs, Shem Pnimius and Makifim Kanal, which are the Pnimius and the Makifim, as we said earlier. Through Torah and Mitzvahs, the enemy gets given over into your hands. The completion of the bitter of the Nefesh HaBahamas, Ayin Shamatam, why dafka through Torah and Mitzvahs, why you can't become a mensch without Torah and Mitzvahs. Why to really become a mensch, which means the bitter of the animal soul, requires dafka Torah and Mitzvahs. Now the Rebbe says, here is where the Elul part comes in. But if someone sinned and he already messed up this entire inyan, he needs to do tshuva. To draw down from above, to make up what is lacking, and to fix the blemishes. And this is the way it says, from the depth, from a very deep place, I call you forth, Hashem. Simply, it means I'm calling out to you from a very deep place, but according to Chassidus, it means if I botched up this entire flow of energy, of Makif and of Pnimium, which is the Yud Kei Vav Kei is the flow through which Hashem reveals himself to us. That's the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Mima Makim Krasicha Havaya means Mima Makim, from a deep place in you, Hashem. If the flow of Yud Kei Vav Kei, if your emanations are not flowing because you got frustrated with our observance from last year because we messed up, so now we need to draw forth Mima Makim. We have to go deeper into you and draw out a new Hamshacha, a new interest, a new vibrancy in this connection. Krasicha, that's the meaning. Krasicha, we're calling you Havaya to pull out a new Yud Kei Vav Kei. Havaya hu klolis atzilus. Havaya is the general power of all divine emanation, general world of Atzilus, Yud Chachma Chulu, and the Makifim too. That's all part, because on the Yud there is a thorn on top of the Yud, which represents the Makifim that are higher even than Chachma. Ukrasicha, and the Krasicha, Ainam Shacha Havaya Acheres. We have to recreate a new Havaya, Mechodosh, Oiros Bekelim. You have to make new Oiros Bekelim. Ki Hamshacha sa Oiros Shekvar Nimshachu Bekelim. Because the Oiros that were already drawn down, in other words, we have to create a new God. Say that in the Hama, oops, we're going to get into big trouble. Make a new Eibishter. Not a new Eibishter, but a new Eibishter as a projector, as God's presence in the world needs to be renewed. That's the idea. Because the oiros that were already drawn into kelim, nifkamu, they were blemished, as a result of the negligence or poor performance. And now we need to draw down new lights. And this Samshacha, from a deep place, may Asara oimkim, from 10 deep places, Sheba Seres Yumei Tshuva, which is in the 10 days of Tshuva. Umka de Chashucha, the depth of darkness, because there is no light. So we have to go to the place of the source of light, that's called the depth of darkness, from where light comes from. Yoshas Chayshech Sichrei, where Hashem shrouds himself in darkness. V'zehu, and this is the meaning of Ashivei Nu'elecha, return us to you, Mekaira de Kula, the source of everything, Kenoida, as it is known. Shemei Ein Soif Baruch Hu Nasa Tzimtzum. Now this idea that we have to call it forth from a dark place, what does that mean? Because from the Ein Soif Baruch Hu Nasa Tzimtzum, when you go all the way back to the quintessence of essence, at the very, very, very beginning. So you have what it says, that the Or Ein Sof was everywhere. Then there was a tzimtzum, there was a contraction. Umakum panu, in an empty space. V'chalal, and a vacancy. V'achakach nimshach kav v'chut, and afterwards Hashem emanates a tiny little thread. Umikav zeh, from this thread, nimshachim kol ha'igulim. From this thread, it starts to emanate all these encompassing lights, all these spheres, umakifim, and all the makifim, where it speaks about the whole primordial system of how the whole cosmic order came about to begin with. It comes about through an evolution, but it starts first with a complete removal of Hashem's presence, light at least, revealed self. And then through a tiny little thread, boom, that's the source. That means from the darkness starts the light. From the concealment that's before Tzimtzum Arishon starts the light. And now, and then you have all these makifim, and then, so all year long, we're already post this process. So we're drawing down, as we spoke earlier, through Torah one level, through mitzvah the next level, Simcha Shel Mitzvah. These are all levels within this system. But now we need to get to Mimamakim. What's the Mimamakim? The Mimamakim, he says, is to the beginning of the thread, where the thread is plugged in to the pre-thread, to the Ein Sof that's shining before the Tzimtzum. That's how far you have to get back. That's called Mimamakim. From there you need to generate new light. V'reishes hakav hazeh, the beginning of this kav, hainu b'chinas malchus to Adam Kadmon, is malchus of Ak, of Adam Kadmon. Shamu umkedekula, that's the depth. Umisham nimshachu yud gimel midas harachamim. And that's where the 13 attributes of mercy come from. From that very omek, from that very deep place. V'zeu b'chinas tshuva, and this is the idea of tshuva. And that's why we know tshuva is more intense, because tshuva is touching on this very, very deep place, at the very, very, very core, higher and higher and higher and deeper and deeper and deeper, much, much greater than where the tzaddikim are triggering and where the tzaddikim are pulling. B'makim shebali tshuva oimdim, the place where the bali tshuva stand. Chulu, no one can reach that place. The mashchen lei, they pull God himself. B'chele yatir, they're pulling. Oh no, the bal tshuva gets pulled. B'chele yatir, with added vigor. So they're pulling at the Eibishter. Elecha mamish, to you yourself. Achlias hakoyach hazeh b'nefesh. So that's what we're going to do. And when we do tshuva, we fix it all. But the Rebbe says, how are we going to get to that? Such a deep, intense shaking from the very core of a person's essence to be able to reach so high. For that, the Eibishter gives us the month of Elul, in which he showers us with the rose petals. As the rose petals start to fall, Be'ezus Hashem, tomorrow night. So these rose petals, these are the 13 attributes of mercy, they are coming down to enable us to do tshuva, to be able to evoke within our hearts from the deepest place that yearning to Hashem. This intense chela, this intense energy, these are through the 13 attributes of mercy. That's from Rosh Chodesh Elul. Shenemar aleim, it says about these 13 attributes of mercy. No, it says about these days. V'anoichi amadati bahar. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I stood in the mountain during these 40 days. Kiyamim harishonim, like the first days. Moshe Rabbeinu calls these days like the first days, because Moshe Rabbeinu was on the mountain 2 times 40. 40 in the beginning of 40 right after the giving of the Torah on Sivan. And then at the end of those 40 days, the 17th of Tammuz, they made the golden calf, so he broke the luchos. Then he went up a second times 40 days, but God was angry. Moshe was pleading, Hashem was upset. And then he went up the third time for 40 days, but this time it says, Moshe Rabbeinu felt the wrath was gone, and it was kiyamim arishonim, it was like the first time. It was in God's continence and in God's kindness. But here the Rebbe is taking the words kiyamim harishonim and learning that it means Kiyamim Harishonim is referring to this very, very deep mystical place. The 13 attributes of mercy. Kenoidad is known, Sheyesh Yemei Olam. There are, what is days? A day means an illumination. Light. Day is illumination. So the days of the world means a godly illumination that's measured for the world. Olam. So we say, for example, how many days are there? 7 days. So the 7 days correspond to the 7 spheros. And we know the 7 spheros are the 7 building blocks of the world. Limited. But then there is, so they're finite. Like they say, Ze'er Anpin, there's a small face of God. But then there is the Yemei Kedem, the ancient days. Yemei Kedem, ancient days, means primordial illumination of days. Days that are not limited to the world. They're not in any way, any limitation. There's the infinite mercy of God, the infinite compassion of the Eibishter. Sheyesh Yemei Olam v'Yemei Kedem, and there's early days. Shnois Olam, there is the years of Olam of the world. Shanim Kadmonios, and ancient years. Yemei Kedem, and what are Yemei Kedem? And they're from the depth, the Chashucha, that's from the depth of darkness. Me'umka the Chashucha, they're from the depth of darkness. Malchus the Adam Kadmon, it's from Malchus of Adam Kadmon. Adam Kadmon over there, things are not called Olam. It's Kedem, that's why it's called, from Adam Kadmon comes Shanim Kadmoniyos Yemei Kedem. And he gives you a bunch of sources to look on this idea of Kedem, the days. Umisham Nimshach Li, and only the Baal Tshuva reaches this place. Umisham Nimshach Lias Makifim, and from these Yemei Kedem, these are the 40 days, these are the days themselves, these are not regular days. They're not days of the world, these are days Yemei Kedem. The days of Elul are different days. They're not drawn, the days themselves are not drawn from Yemei Olam, they're from Yemei Kedem, they're primordial days. And therefore, from that place, from those days, the days themselves bring you these Makifim Digalites that sit upon us, and they cause us to do tshuva. They empower us to do tshuva. So on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we also experience the 13 attributes of mercy, but that's the post-tshuva 13 attributes of mercy. That's 13 attributes, responding, forgiving us for the sins that we've done, for the breaches or whatever we've done. But this is not forgiving, this is empowering tshuva. Valzen Nemer, on this it says, Ani ledoidi, I am to my beloved. And the pasuk says, Va'alai chukasai. Chukasai. And to, simply it reads, and to me is his longing. I am to him, and to me is his longing. But it doesn't say ve'elai, and to me. It says va'olai, and upon me is his longing. What does that mean? In order for us to long for God, in order for us, it should be ani ledodi, I should long to God. It's because olai, upon me, hovering upon, above me. Obviously, this revelation can't be revealed to a person. It's hovering, it's makif, it's way above us. Olai, above me, chukasa is his longing. God's longing to us, and that powerful love of God to us is what we marinate in for 40 days. And that's what helps us do tshuva, that pulls out the tshuva. The loiks, if it doesn't say ve'ilai chukasa, and to me is his longing, elava olai, and upon me, above in a state of makiv. Big day love. Similar to this idea that there are clothing, that God blankets us with these rose petals. This idea that he gives us a lavush, a makif, which helps us do tshuva, we find is similar to the garments of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. It's also garments. It's a makif that empowers him to do the avodah. Mi garam, it says over there, shani ledoidi. Who caused that I should be ledoidi? That's what it says in Idra, in the Zohar of Parshas Nosai. Mishim da'alai chukasai, because upon me is his longing. Achin b'Zohar Parshas Lech Lecha, but he asks a question. In Zohar Parshas Lech Lecha it says b'Pirush ani ledoidi. It says first ani ledodi. Ani ledoidi b'kadmaisa. First is ani ledoidi ulebasar, and afterwards valai chukasei, and afterwards God's longing is upon us. So it implies the opposite. These two Zohars seem to be contradicting each other. In one Zohar it says Who causes me, ani ledodi? It's because alai chukasei, because upon me is his longing. But in the other pasuk it says the opposite. First we need to have ani ledodi, and then alai chukasei. V'chein mashma apirish be'idra zuta, and so it seems to be an idra zuta. So how do you set it up? How do you? So he explains that's the 13 attributes of mercy. One of them begins in the month of Elul, and the other 13 attributes of mercy is mainly in Aseres Yomei Tshuva and mainly on Yom Kippur. One is after our tshuva, God reciprocates to our tshuva through his 13 attributes of mercy, and he forgives us everything, and he repairs the channels, and it's a whole new relationship. And the other one is preparation for tshuva. From Elul and Yom Kippur. Because on the 13 attributes of mercy of Elul, they are a hamshacha to enable this Rusa de Latata, that we should be able to have our Neseres. Al Zeh Amru, on this it says, Mi Garam, who causes Shani Ledoidi, that I should be Ledoidi, Mishim Dalai Chukasai, because upon me is his Chukah. So it happens first is the revelation from above, and that warms the heart. But then the 13 attributes of the 10 days of Tshuva and Yom Kippur. See, interesting, before he says only Yom Kippur, here he says both. Aseres Yomei Tshuva and Yom Kippur. Shem slichas u'mechilas avonos. That's already forgiveness. El, the Eibusher didn't forgive you. He's warming our hearts that we should ask for forgiveness, and then afterwards he will forgive us. The second level of the 13 attributes. Mechilas avonos al yedei tshuva, through tshuva. Al zeh omar al yedei shani ledoidi bekadmaisa. Through this, that I will be ledoidi to my beloved first. Al yedei zev alai chukasai, his longing will be upon me. V'ayim asher kasam in beis bechinas yud gimel midis the el v'yem kippurim b'divra maschel v'samti katked v'shar duchta. It's in the other mimer in Parshas Re'eh, which we learned, Samti Katked, an unbelievable mimer. Over there he talks about these two bechinos in El as well, El and Yom Kippur, he explains them both. And this is what it means, the one who flocks or who shepherds grazes amongst the roses. These are the 13 petals of the rose that surround the rose. And these are the 13 attributes that Micha says. That's interesting. He's now going to explain the difference between the 13 attributes of Micha and the 13 attributes of Moshe Rabbeinu. 13 attributes are mentioned in the Torah once in Moshe Rabbeinu, and then Micha, the Navi Micha, also mentions 13 attributes. So in Chassidus it explains, and based on a Zohar, that these are, now this is not the 13 attributes that he just mentioned, 2 levels of 13 attributes, one in El and one in Yom Kippur. That's not that. That 2 dimensions is in the 13 attributes of Micha itself. There is the way that it comes to us in Elul and the way it comes to us on Yom Kippur. But the idea of Moshe Rabbeinu's 13 attributes of mercy are different. And what are they? And the idea is as follows. In general, the month of Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, we are tugging on the 13 attributes of Micha, not of Moshe. What's the difference? So the Zohar says that Moshe Rabbeinu's 13 attributes of mercy were primarily mercy for physical life. For our physical life, for our material life. That means, because by Moshe Rabbeinu, there was a threat of annihilation of the Jewish people, and Moshe Rabbeinu needed to save the Jewish bodies, not the Jewish souls. Because if the Jewish bodies would have died, chas v'shalom, their souls would have gone up to heaven, they would have been fine. The problem was their bodies. So Moshe Rabbeinu needed to save our material existence, our physical existence in this world. Moshe Rabbeinu's 13 attributes of mercy is Hashem's mercy on our body. And therefore, whenever chas v'shalom we're in a state of chas v'shalom illness, state of drought, or parnas, any kind of problem, we resolve it by evoking Moshe Rabbeinu's 13 attributes of mercy. But there is another type of a mercy. And this is what the Alter Rebbe is talking about. The month of Elul. The month of, where a person doesn't realize that our neshama is withering away. in horrible pain. It has a job to do. It came down to the world only for the sake of illuminating the world with powerful, powerful dosages of godliness, as we spoke earlier. And if, God forbid, it messed it up, and therefore the soul is incapable now of doing a mitzvah, of drawing any, even when he does them, it's not drawing down, because the whole system has been made up. It's a tremendous pity on the neshama. A neshama that got caught, a neshama that got stuck in the muck and is not moving and not doing what it should be doing. And it's a horrible situation. And that is a whole different mercy. It's like God having mercy on the neshama, which is a part of him. That mercy is a higher levels of mercy than the mercy of Moshe Rabbeinu. Micha's 13 attributes of mercy, we're referring to the 13 attributes of mercy as it is applying to the neshama. And it comes out of a pasuk, Mikael Kamoicha. You'll be familiar with this idea when I'll tell you that when you go to Tashlech, we say a pasuk, Mikael Kamoicha, and you're told in the Machzer that every word you say, you should have in mind corresponding Mikael Kamoicha to Hashem, Hashem, Kel Rachum. You don't say it, but you have it in mind. Oh, so that's the Yud Gimel Midas Arachamim, and we do it on Rosh Hashanah by Tashlech of Micha. And that's the 13 attributes of mercy that is flowing during the month of El. It's not so much that we should be able to unload on our physical problems. It's primarily that we should be able to get back on track or have a complete spiritual reset. That's what we need. Every year, Rosh Hashanah, we need a complete spiritual revamp and reset, a reboot, so that we can operate and fulfill our mission in this world. And for that, we need divine assistance, and we need God's mercy. And that's the idea. And these are Vehen Yud Gimel Midah Sha'amar Micha Shehem Ba'atik, which these are in a much higher level. They're in the Pnimius of Keser, in Atik, in the ancient one. Vehen Lamai Lama Yud Gimel Sha'amar Moshe. They're higher than Moshe's 13 attributes. Moshe Kasam Makamachar is stated elsewhere. Shemoshe Chimshech Lamata B'Ze'er Anpin. B'Zah Moshe Rabbeinu was Mamshech below into the Ze'er Anpin. Moshe Kasam Be'Idra, like it's stated in Idra. V'Hainu Ki Yud Gimel Midah Shal Moshe Hen L'Chaye Olam Hazeh. Moshe Rabbeinu's 13 attributes were for the material life of this world. Moshe needed that to do that. Why? Because God threatened Moshe that what? Let me, and I'm going to destroy them. And this idea that Moshe Rabbeinu was bringing down the 13 attributes of mercy for God to have mercy on something very low is also seen by the fact that as soon as after Moshe mentions the 13 attributes of mercy, it says he bowed down. Now we know that one of the purposes of bowing, in addition to surrender, is when you're bowing down, you're channeling something very low. You're bowing to the floor means you're bringing it down. You're bringing the head down. You're bringing all the energies down, down, down. When Moshe Rabbeinu did that, was he took the mercy and applied them to the physical bodies of the Jewish people. So that's why he bowed down. Bowing he drew it down below. But the 13 attributes that Micha said, and Yud Gimel Midah is the Erech Anpin. These are the 13 attributes of Erech Anpin. It's interesting, before he said it's an Atik, and now he says it's an Erech Anpin, so I'm not exactly sure. Erech Anpin is lower than Atik. Okay. Shem L'chaye and Neshamas, which are to the life of souls. Shuchaye Elokus, which is godly life. It's not your material life, your human life, it's your godly life. Like it says in Zohar. Is chesed the lagav, there is a internal chesed, is chesed the labar, there's an external chesed. Chesed ikra chesed oilam, there's a chesed that's called chesed of the world, which is more related to the world. The zah, when Zeir Ampin is called world, the chesiv amarti oilam chesed yibana, when I said oilam I want a world, chesed yibana, Hashem built chesed, or as explained, oilam chesed yibana, I want to build the world on chesed, but whatever you see from here is that you see there's a chesed that relates to the world. High chesed, atik, and then there's another level of chesed of atik. Lav b'chaye gufa, the Zohar says it's not in life of the body, relating to physical life, itmar, ela b'chaye denishmasa, it's in the life of the soul. I am b'zoyer ba'aloischa, t'num beisuma. V'zeu araya b'sheshanim, that's what we say in the month of El Anila Dodi Li. God pastures amongst the roses. Shuroi Zanu Mefarnes. The Eibishter is Zanu Mefarnes. In the month of El, God nurtures us. He feeds us the roses. And he says, all year long, God is also giving us food. God is always nurturing us, spiritually. But the spiritual nurture we get all year long is grass. We don't get roses. All year long, it says, God gives us grass, holy grass. Some people want to smoke that. Ki b'chol hashana, all year long. Hurray, if they would learn this, they would never need to smoke. That's what they should be smoking. Ki b'chol hashana hurray Yisroel b'pchenas esav. All year long, God gives us grass. Now, mainly why we need the grass is like this. All year long, our neshama doesn't really need the sustenance that much. It's our animal soul. We need koach to rectify the animal soul, and an animal eats grass. So we have to feed our animal. And what does it mean? He's going to explain that we all have an animal soul, and we have to get our animal soul on board that it too should love God. And our animal soul on its own is not interested in loving God. So we need to empower it. So we get divine assistance to empower it. That divine assistance is special angelic food. There is fish food that you buy to feed your fish in the tank. There's cat food you buy for your cats. There's dog food you buy for your dog. And there's special angelic food that God feeds our neshama every day, special grass. He sends it down through the angels, and it empowers us to rectify the animal soul in us, to feed our animal, that it too should want to love God. And we say that v'nasati eisa b'satchel dem tetch. When do we eat? It's during davening. That spiritual food enters, the spiritual enzymes enter into our body during davening, in which we meditate on the angels before we come to Shema. And why are we meditating on angels? Because we're saying that just like the angels are loving God, we too should love God. Our animal soul is derived from the angels. And when you give our animal soul a little of that angelic food, it too will sing like an angel. And that's the idea. B'chol nafshecha, with all your soul, with both your souls. B'chol levavcha, with both your hearts, your animal soul as well. That's all year long. Elul, we need, our neshama needs to eat. Not unrelated to our animal soul. Our neshama needs to be given an extra potent, extra powers, extra strength. Because a neshama has a tremendous job. What we need to do on Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur is we need to storm and reach and affect places that are just unbelievable. We're climbing a gazillion levels higher than we are all year long. And to be able to make that climb to such a high place, we need to be well fed for a month before. And the entire month of El, Hashem is feeding our soul with that potent stuff, which is infinitely higher than the angel food. It's rose food. It's coming from it's coming from Yemei Kedem, from the ancient days. It's way above, and those are the 13 attributes of Mir that Hashem is feeding our neshamas during this time. So all year, first you can explain what it is all year long. With grass. Like it says, I give grass into your field, to your animal, and grass to the service of man. This that the Jewish people receive love and fear through the angels. By the blessing of Yotzer Or, Kulam Ahuvim, Vayafanim, Chulu, and this enables them to have excitement of love and fear. Or the tikkun of kedusha, I think he means when the malachim say kadosh, 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 our nefesh receives some of that vigor. That's our animal soul. The nefesh elokis doesn't need this rectification. Because your godly soul is higher than the malachim. So you can't say our godly soul needs nurture from the malachim. Quite on the contrary, the neshama is higher than the angels. It's higher than the angels of every world. The neshama is from the pnimius, and the malachim are from the external, the outside of the world. It's our animal soul. Our animal soul comes from the malachim, the oifanim. The real chitzonius, the real gashmius in the world comes from the dregs of the ofanim. Our animal soul's energy itself comes from the pneumius of the ofanim. It's the first time I remember seeing that in Chassidus. The rest of the world itself gets fed from the mamish, from the dregs of the angels. What the angels mamish, the waste, literally the waste of the angels becomes the pleasures and all the material things in this world. Our animal soul is fed gets its energy from the internal of the angels, of the lower angels called Eifan. And therefore it gets inspired by them. That's why every day by davening we speak about the malachim and we inspire. Our animal soul should also come along, it should be on board, it should agree. So you have to give them food. You have to draw down from the Eifanim, the Chayus, they are the root and source of the animal soul. And the reason is, he uses a Kabbalistic phrase, you can't sweeten the judgments, which means to rectify a stiffness, which is the animal soul. It's stiff, it's stubborn. You can't sweeten it and change its course, only through its own source. Its own source is the malachim, so you have to give it a taste of the malachim. And say to the animal soul, you have to realize that your source itself is not lowly animalistic. Your source itself is a malach that's also yearning for God. So why don't you get on board with your own source? This idea is discussed. And that's why the men of the great assembly commanded us, or instituted every day, that we should say Vayfanim, the Chayes HaKodesh, the Vayfanim and the Chayes HaKodesh. The Birchas Yoitzer Or Kodim Kriya Shema Shema Yisroel. Before you're saying Shema. In other words, when you're saying Shema, you want to love God already, and you want to bring your animal soul also to love. So before you say Shema Yisroel, you're first connecting to the Malachim, and you're drawing down energy from them. Yisroel, the Nefesh Elikis, is the godly soul. It has a job. What should it do? With both your inclinations. With all both your soul. Even with your animal soul. But how can you get your animal soul with it? I will give grass. Which sadcha, huchakal, tapuchin, kadishin. First it goes through the apple orchard. So that it can get to your animal. Because Malchus is the source and so forth. Of the Malachim, of the Merkava, and then finally all the way down to the animal. And then you will eat and you'll be satiated. So this is this idea. That's all year long. It's time to bring your godly soul as well into the rehab, to get a little nurtured, to get a little intensified. The Eibishter nurtures with roses. God is giving us spoonful of rose soup. Yeah. These are the 13 petals. Parshas Eikev Achaz V'chaltos Avato Berachta Binyan Kilor Lechem Levada Yichya Adam Shu B'chinas Lechem in Haaretz. And this is what it says, that a man doesn't live only on lechem levada. Lechem is this lower food. V'chein b'chinas Esav Mazayin the Nefesh Bahamis. That's not our only sustenance. Ki al kol moitze pi Hashem, what comes out of God's mouth, which means the source of Hashem's mouth, which is this special food. This Yichya ha'adam is your nefesh alakis. Hayin b'chinas lechem in hashamayim, it's a higher type of bread from heaven. Shenimshach meb'chinas tal, which comes from dew. Talad de bedulcha, this level called crystal dew. Shebemoyach stimo, which comes from the concealed mochin. Shu makar yud gimel midisarachim, which is the source of the 13 attributes of mercy. K'moshe sham divna mascheve yachuchas amon ayin sham. Look over there. Val derech zeh, similar to that. Hu ha'hefresh, we turn over the page, we're almost done. For the difference between b'chinas v'nasati esav l'gabi b'chinas haroya b'sheshana. That's the difference between v'nasati esav to the roya b'sheshana. U'b'zoyer parshas Yisroel mai moitze pi Hashem. So now he's getting connected, because it says this higher bread, this higher sustenance is from moitze pi Hashem. So the Zohar says, da koil ha'shofar, that's the sound of the koil of the shofar. Bahai koil shofar tal yakulia. And what's the koil of the shofar? That's the sound of the shofar. You can say that's the shofar of El, not just the shofar. Through the shofar is galus yud gimel sarachim. I don't even know if he's talking about the shofar of Rosh Hashanah. It could be even the shofar of El. That's why we blow shofar on El, to get this higher food. Also, because this is already referring to shofar of Rosh Hashanah, which is called Moitza Pi Hashem, because it constructs and it builds Malchus, which is called Pi Hashem. And this is from that place is where we're nurtured the entire month of El. So he explains, from Rosh Chodesh El until Yom Kippur is 40 days. And in Yom Kippur we receive the second Luchos, which is, what does that mean? Hashem gave us a new Torah. The first one was messed up because of our mess up. So Hashem gave us a new Torah, which means that all the emanations were reconstructed, were reflowing. Klolis, kol atariyag mitzvahs, all of them. Then milui kol achasroines, everything that was lacking is refilled. Va'apegomim, and all the blemishes. B'amshachas pnimiyim makifim machadash, we draw down new pnimiyim and new internal lights and new makif. Ubezoyer pasha shmois isa the ramaschal b'sheshan. And therefore, so because we're drawing down a whole new thing, we need to have extra oomph and extra potent power to do that. And for that, God has to feed us with these special rose petals to be able to nurture our souls to be able to do that. And now, Bezoyer Pasha Shemois Isa. Now, in the Zohar Pasha Shemois, it says, Davar Achar, another pshat. B'Shoshanim, what does Shoshanim mean? So, according to what we learned till now, Shoshanim the whole time is the roses, is this level of mercy. But here it says, Ba'osim Shoshanim b'Torah, those who study Torah. The word Shoshanim can be played as the word Sheshonim, those that are learning. So we have to say that Torah study is also bringing us or connecting us to this very, very quintessential, primordial hamshacha to draw down, to bring new life to. So what is the connection? Nimshach makif hayashar akloli shamakif bashva achas, which we accomplish through tshuva, that has to be drawn down through Torah. Why? For inyan simchas Torah. This is the idea of simchas Torah. Shah simcha shel kol hashana b'Torah mitzvahs nichlal b'yom echad. What simchas Torah? Simchas Torah, he says, is the gathering of joy. Of all the Torah mitzvahs you do all year long, you have one day in which all that joy concentrate in one day, Simchas Torah. And you have Simcha Shal Mitzvah in every mitzvah. Two things you can say. All the Simcha Shal Mitzvah from last year is embedded in this day, but it's also the empowerment for all the Simcha Shal Mitzvah that you're going to have throughout the year. And since we learned earlier that Simcha Shal Mitzvah touches higher than the mitzvah itself, because it reaches the, right, that we learned earlier. Nichlol b'yoyim echad shu klolis kol hashana umakif zeh nimshach al yedei haTorah. But yet, this simcha shal mitzvah, so why are we connecting it to Torah, dafka? It's joy. Why dafka simchas Torah, which Torah, as we said, is before, is the pnimi. And then there is mitzvahs, which is makif, and the simcha is makif le-makif. So why is it connected? Because it's drawn through Torah. Agam shu b'chinas pnimius, even though it's pnimius. Because that's what we learned earlier. Gadol Talmud, shemei v'lidei ma'isa. V'zeh in Gadol Talmud Torah, shemei v'lidei ma'isa. It can know it as it is known, because, you see, pnimius, the idea of pnimius, emerges in two places. There is pnimius that emerges after all the makifim. You have makif, lower makif, grandeur makif, lower makif, and then there's pnimius, food, internalization. It's the most drip. That's the level of Torah that that we usually speak. Torah, as we're taking it in, this is the makifim, the Torah, chokhmah. It's the or pnimi. It's after all the makifim, you come down to a pnimi. But he says, in truth, pnimi is also at the very quintessential beginning. Because from God itself, they could never reveal itself to Makifim. Remember we learned earlier, first there had to be a complete removal of Hashem's light. Then there is that little thread, and from that thread come the Makif. So what do you see? That there is a flip order as well, where the Pnimi is first, and then from the Pnimi come the Makif. There is a narrow light, and from the narrow light come the encompassing energies. And that's the idea of Torah of Simchas Torah. Torah of Simchas Torah is not the Torah that comes after all the encompassing levels, and you get down to the Makif. It's the primordial Pnimi that precedes all the Makifim, as he says over here. From him himself, nothing is drawn. There is a tzimtzum, an empty space, and a chol. And only a kav and chut nimshach acharat tzimtzum comes after the tzimtzum. And that's Pnimius. From it comes all the makifim. Simchas Torah is touching on that very, very beginning of the, as he called it earlier, mimamakim, from the oimek rosh, the rosh of the beginning of the hamshacha. Makifim rak pnimius elya nasa makif l'tacht. So from makifim can't come down. It starts with pnimi and then it becomes makifim. V'chach men pnimius elyon shu akav v'chut nasa kol makifim, come all the makifim. And that's where Simchas Torah is at. So I guess the Torah causes the Simcha Shel Mitzvah. So we take the Torah out, but when we're taking the Torah out, this is not the Torah that we're reading all year long. That's Simchas Torah. This is the Torah as it's elevated to way above all the makifim, to its very, very beginning, and that Torah is emanating first Simcha Shel Mitzvah, powerful, encompassing makif, the dancing, and that's why it's crazy dancing, from head to toe equally. That's why we're supposed to take a little mashka, forget our minds completely, and be in one energy that's wow. And then from there, we already move to mitzvah observance, because that's what we do in Simchas Torah. We commit to mitzvahs, and then we move on to reading the Torah. That's already the makifim that come later, the or pnimi that comes later. Look at all these places and you will be a lot smarter. L'chaim, everyone. We did it. Believe me, at 6 o'clock today, I did not think that this was going to happen. The mimer was completely heavy, to me at least. It was like dry, bunch of Kabbalah words that made no sense. And I tried 2 times. The second time it got a little bit clearer. It was still like, and I davened mincha. I said, Eibush, have mercy on me. And I actually meant it. At that moment I meant it. And look what happened. The mimer opened up. There's still a lot more in this mimer, but at least and it even brought our good friend. And yeah,